There are new questions tonight about the Eric Trump Foundation run by President Trump's son. So here to discuss is Dan Alexander, who broke the story for Forbes. So Dan, in 2007, this was the first Eric Trump golf tournament that took place, raising $220,000. Seemed like a really great formula, a free Trump golf course, and the goods and services were all donated, assuring donors that every penny possible went to charity. But after about 4 years, things changed, and I just want to read part of your piece, and then I'm going to let you weigh in, okay? You said, in reviewing filings from the Eric Trump Foundation and other charities, it's clear that the course wasn't free, that the Trump Organization received payments for its use, part of more than $1.2 million that has no documented recipients past the Trump Organization. Golf charity experts say the listed expenses defy any reasonable cost justification for a one-day golf tournament. So explain this. Where did the money go?
Well, that's the big question. You know, what we know is that in 2011, after years of running this without big expenses, Donald Trump comes in and he tells his son and the charity, I know that you're doing a good thing. I know that this is for kids with cancer, but you're holding this in my course and we're going to charge you. And so they start charging him, and you can see the expenses go up immediately when he does that. And then they continue to inflate over the years. Keep on creeping up, keep on creeping up. And as that's going on, the accounting that the foundation is doing doesn't make much sense. They list one golf tournament every year, and the numbers seem too high to be just one golf tournament. And then you have former board members who are saying, well, sometimes we would count other events that we worked with, some years we wouldn't, but they always only listed as one event. So there's a lot of murkiness there. The one thing that we know is that Donald Trump's company was getting paid by his son's charity.
Okay, and so we saw the numbers up on the screen, and that was a lot of money that they had to pay back to Dad, right? To Donald Trump. You have two sources that have told you that President Trump, then just Donald Trump at the time, is the one who commanded that the Trump Organization start billing his son's charitable foundation to hold the tournament there.
That's
right?
correct. That's correct. There's one guy who was at the time at the course, who was sitting in on all the meetings. And he says, basically, Donald looks at this and he says, hey, this event's getting, it's getting to be a pretty big thing. And we're not just going to support this. Everybody gets billed. Apparently, he said he totally flipped out, had a cow, and said, if you're going to be holding an event in my course, you're going to be paying for it.
Let me ask you that, because we put those numbers up. Why would the price of a tournament suddenly triple in 1 year? Why is that?
Well, it looks like there are a couple of things going on, but the first explanation is that that's the first year that Donald Trump says, you got to pay.
So the first year they didn't pay?
In the early years, it looks like they were paying just outside vendors, maybe.
Got it, okay.
But their total expenses are still about what you would expect for a total golf tournament. So it's even if they were paying the club. So it's not entirely clear if they were paying only vendors or where exactly all of that money is going. Then in 2011, it becomes much more clear.
So shortly before the spike in costs, the Donald J. Trump Foundation donated $100,000 to the Eric Trump Foundation. Why was this donation made, and what happened to it?
Basically, it was a business deal. They said, hey, we're going to start charging you, but to make up for that, we're going to give you a donation from the Donald J. Trump Foundation. Sounds good. The charity doesn't lose any money. Everything's good. The only catch here, though, is that the money in the Donald J. Trump Foundation was not Donald J. Trump's. It was other people's money. So then he makes an agreement. All right, other people's money is coming into my foundation. Then he hands $100,000 to his son's foundation. And then his son, in turn, pays his club. So you have money that starts as other people's donations where they think that they're giving to charity, and it appears to end up as revenue at a Trump club.
Okay. And these are your words. You say this has more in common with a drug cartel laundering money than it does with charity practices. Explain
That's right.
that.
Yeah, I mean, you talk to charity people about this, and they're just floored. They say, how could you arrange something like that? And when you look at it, you're taking money that starts as one intent, starts as charity money given to an organization, and on the other end, it becomes revenue for a company.
I understand that you asked Eric Trump for an itemized list of expenses. What was his response?
There was no response to that. Once we started asking the tougher questions, that's when they shut down.
Okay. And has he responded?
No, not yet today, although he did send out a tweet that said, hey, I've raised $16.3 million. I think he's on TV right now, and he's talking about a bunch of different things, but also saying, hey, I raised a lot of money for this charity.
Here's a tweet, and then I'll let you respond. He says,
Sure.
I've raised $16.3 million for terminally ill children at the St. Jude with less than, at St. Jude for less than 12.3% expense ratio. What have you done today? So you think he's trying to distract from your story, or by saying, and has he done some good things?
He certainly has. This is a guy, again, and we can't forget this, even given all of the weird, shady stuff going on in this foundation. This is a guy who comes out of college and he decides, I want to raise money for a children's hospital that does cancer research. That's a good thing. And
he's raised money, but it doesn't. It doesn't make up for the shadiness.
It doesn't forgive what they did later.
Yeah. Okay. So let me read another part of your piece.
Sure.
He said, in order to understand the Eric Trump Foundation, you need to understand the Donald J. Trump Foundation. The president was never known for giving his foundation much money, and from 2009 to 2014, he didn't give it any at all. Outsiders still donated, though, allowing Trump to dole out their money to a smattering of more than 200 charities as if it were his own, with many of the donations helping his business interests. So the board of the Eric Trump Foundation started as a group of Eric Trump's friends, right?
That's correct.
With no business connections to the Trump organization. Did Eric Trump start out with all good intentions for this charity event, and then did it just sort of snowball into something that maybe...
It looks like he starts out with great intentions. And then in 2011, his dad gets involved. And his dad says, you got to start paying the club. He puts Trump Organization employees on the board. The board members who were Eric's friends start dropping off the board. If you look by 2015, which is the most recent year that we have documents on this, the board is made up of 17 people. 2 of them have the last name Trump, 6 of them are Trump Organization employees, and 1 of them did $16 million of business with the Trump campaign. So you're looking at a majority of the board who are financially dependent on Donald Trump at the time that the board is making the decision to hold a golf tournament at a Donald Trump course and pay the organization.
He hasn't responded to you, Dan. What would you want to ask Eric Trump right now?
Well, I think the first thing is there any plausible explanation for this? You said that all of the expenses were paid for. You said that you guys weren't charging. You said that you weren't charging on food. You said that you weren't charging on drinks. Where did all of this money go? If you break down the expenses of the tournament, how could one tournament cost this much? Were there other tournaments that you guys were lumping in with this one tournament? There's just a lot of questions about the accounting of all of this.